Please. It's okay. An inappropriate beginning. I was just thinking we ought to have our technical whiz kids wire up a button from Paul to the people on the chancel so we know when to start and when not. My name is Jane Perkins, and this morning we have Nikki Norman as our service leader. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Saco and Biddeford. We also want to welcome those joining us on YouTube and encourage you to have a candle or chalice to light when we light ours here in a few moments. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whomever you love, we are glad you are here with us today. The theme for the month of November is generosity. We invite you to carry that theme with you as you are with us today and into your lives when you leave here. We strive to be a green sanctuary. It gives roots and wings to our vision of a world where all people build toward a sustainable future and make reverence, gratitude, and care for the living earth central to our lives. We want to acknowledge that our building sits on the unceded land of the Wabanaki Confederation. That includes the Abenaki, Maliseet, Micmac, Passamaquoddy, and Penobscot nations. We invite you to take home the order of service for information and announcements, or you may leave it here for recycling. Please silence your cell phones. There will be a social hour in the parish hall after the service.
Good morning. We appear to be a little bit candle challenged this morning. Hi. Our words of welcome are actually a chalice lighting, which will go right into the reading of our covenant. As we light this chalice with its freely shared light and freely shared warmth, let us be reminded of the many things that are freely shared with us and that we freely share with others. May we lean into generosity shared from the heart that can warm those around us. And please join me in the reading of our covenant. With our sacred promise to gather together in peace, to seek truth in love, to serve human need, so that all shall grow in harmony with the divine. And then please join me in the responsive reading, which I think Trevor's going to pop right up here. Right. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we're in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another when we would accomplish our greater purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another in the hour of defeat when with encouragement we cannot And let's repeat the last line together. All our lives, we are in need, and others are in need of us. And now please stand as you're willing and able, and let's join in singing hymn number 157. Please turn and greet your neighbors.
This is the time in our service when we share with one another joys and sorrows that we may be carrying. If you want to come forward, tell us who you are, share what is in your heart. We will hold it in ours.
Hi, I'm Donna. I ended up with 3 candles when I was only trying to do 2 because I couldn't get them lit. So we'll give one of them for thank you for lighting the candles to Jane. One candle is for our neighbor at the mill where we live, whose husband died this past week, and she's quite distraught, so we're thinking of her. And the other candle is for today and Betsy's and my visit with my 99-year-old aunt that I've spoken about, who's in the nursing home and still very angry and distraught about her time there, and we're hoping that will get better soon. Yesterday was my birthday, and my aunt has always called and sung to me on my birthday since I was a little child. And I have a video of her singing, and I'm taking it with me today and hoping, because she loves music, that maybe she will sing along with it. So we will see.
Hi, my name is Janine, and many of you know my granddaughters who came here a lot when they were little. And this week I had the pleasure of having seen Angela in her last senior high school play. They did Little Shop of Horrors. They were wonderful. They did an amazing job. And on Tuesday, they were both singing in a salute to veterans, and it was a wonderful concert. And David was so tickled.
Our tradition, our habit is to light one last candle because we know that there are unspoken joys and sorrows that each of us may be carrying with us. Please take what you've heard here today with you as you go forward into the week.
Well, I don't see our little Tess today. Maybe she'll come in a few minutes. But I invite any other kids of any age from 2 to about 99 if they'd like to come up and sit. You're welcome. Our theme today is, our theme for the month is generosity. And this is a book, it's called The Singing Snow Bear, and it's written by a friend of mine and also illustrated beautifully. And I will try to hold it up so you can see some of these illustrations. This is about a little bear who kind of sets out on his own, and he learns the value of generosity. Once in a world where the wind blows cold and trees refuse to grow, a bear cub was born. In a cave of ice and snow, Mother Bear cuddled her baby and told him stories about the land above their heads. Soon it will be the time of melting snow, and I will take you up to the place where the sky touches the sea, she growled sweetly. The dark months passed slowly, but the time of the frozen wind finally ended, and Mother Bear dug their way to the surface of the earth. Snow Bear grew big and strong in the land where the ice grows. By the end of his second year, his mother had taught him to sniff the air, hunt for food, ride the ice floes, and swim in the deep, icy water. And I'm sorry I didn't get this to Trevor in time to project the illustrations. Next time, I promise to get it right. One day, as Snow Bear made a spectacular belly flop into the sea, he heard something very strange. It thundered louder than the icebergs crashing. It cheeped and peeped as if 1,000 tiny birds were crying, "Feed me, feed me, feed me." It burbled like a fish and squeaked and clicked louder than Snow Bear's father's teeth. It flowed up his nose and into his head, tickling his ears and making his heart sing. "I feel bigger than a bear," he happily shouted to his mother. But soon the music vanished and he felt empty inside. "Well, maybe I can make those sounds and fill myself with songs," he told his mother. "Bears don't sing," she growled. Every night as Snow Bear settled down to sleep with the other bears, he tried to sing very softly. "Urgh, urgh," he sang. But only the seals answered, far away out on the waves. Snow Bear looked up into the night sky. "I'm very lonely," he whispered to the stars. Finally, Snow Bear could stand it no longer. He gathered up all of his courage, said goodbye to his mother and the company of bears, and went in search of the songs he loved to hear and the mysterious music maker. That very day, Snow Bear found a breathing hole made by the ribbon seals. Peering carefully into the hole, he held his breath. Yes, from far, far away, he could hear the strains of melody moving through the water. Quietly, he slipped his great paw under the surface. "I'll catch that music with my powerful paw, and I'll eat it," he growled in his biggest bear voice. But only the ribbon seals shivered a silent answer, just out of reach beneath the ice. Snow Bear continued his journey, moving slowly across the tundra. He startled Raven and Walrus, who were basking in the Arctic sun. "I'm sure the songs are coming from there," Raven croaked importantly, pointing his longest flight feather exactly in the direction from which Snow Bear had come. But Walrus, who had never been this close to a polar bear before, clutched his tail flipper and said, I'm not sure, but I think the music falls from the sky." Snow Bear thanked them politely and moved on. He discovered Snowy Owl sitting on the bare ground, clutching her egg baby in her long black talons. "There she is. Come on up, Tess. I'm glad to see you." "Excuse me," he said. "I'm looking for the place where the music begins. Come on, sit right down here with me. Isn't he pretty?" Snowy clicked her beak thoughtfully. "I can see for many miles when I fly, and the one you seek never walks the land but swims in the sea." Snow Bear nodded and continued on. And there's our Snowy Owl. I turn the page, there we go. He missed his snow bed and even the other bears. At night, curling himself into a big furry ball, he pressed his ears flat against the ice and listened. And yes, down below, he could hear the singing songs, very near, and then far away, then not at all. He missed his mom, and he cried himself to sleep. But Snow Bear would not give up. In the loneliest part of the tundra, he met an Arctic fox. "You are very clever, I know," grumbled Snow Bear. "You follow behind me to shield yourself from the wind. You eat the scraps of food I leave in the snow." "Yep, that's true," yipped the little white fox. "Well, can you tell me what the music maker looks like?" Snow Bear asked, "since you're so wise." "Well, he's as white as the snow, and a fountain of water gushes out of his head." Snow Bear could not believe his ears. "And he's bigger than you, too," the fox sneered. "Well, I'm not afraid," Snow Bear growled. "Suit yourself," said the fox. Snow Bear turned his back on the little fox and plodded once again toward the sea. The tundra stretched out around him in all directions. "I feel very small, and my paws hurt," Snow Bear cried to no one. The wind whistled endlessly and groaned and moaned and howled louder than the white wolves. It thundered through his head and creaked in his ears, but wait, that's not the wind. That's the saddest song I've ever heard. Over the ice and snow, his ears ached from listening. He was very sure that the unhappy sounds were very near, and at last in the distance. See the whale? He saw something struggling, and he grew near. He saw a creature bigger than any fish, bigger than himself, trapped among the ice floes. With his quivering chin resting against the ice, the great whale sang out his sorry songs. Snow Bear rushed closer. "You're the music maker. I've found you." "Well, I'm not very happy now," sobbed the whale. Snow Bear crept up to the edge of the thin ice. "It's true," sighed the whale. "I am the magic maker of music, and my name is Ooga Beluga. My family tried for days to free me, but they finally had to give up." "I'll save you," cried Snow Bear, "but you must teach me how to sing." "There will be no more songs from you if I can't get free," Ooga sang soulfully. "Give me your tail," Snow Bear commanded bravely in his biggest bear voice. "My tail?" said Ooga Beluga. Then he raised his magnificent flukes out of the water. Snow Bear began to pull on the whale's tail with all his strength. "You must fly," Snow Bear growled. "But whales can't fly," Ooga bellowed as he was flung through the air and landed in a quivering heap. Snow Bear began to drag Ooga Beluga over the bumpy ice. "If I can fly, then you can sing," the whale gasped. When they reached the edges of the ice floes, Snow Bear heaved Ooga into the deep ocean. Ooga spouted water out through his blowhole, covering Snow Bear in a shower of gratitude. For many days, the two rested. They floated lazily among the icebergs. Ooga wanted to know about the land that touches the sea, and Snow Bear wanted to know about the sea that touches the land. I like this one. "We are born in the ocean," Ooga explained, "and our mothers sing us the song." Snow Bear listened dreamily as Ooga sang the ancient whale song, the ancient lullaby. "Go to sleep in the deep. Shadows click and beep. Up and down the ocean swells, rocking baby beluga whales." "Follow the sounds, Snow Bear," Ooga crooned. "It's the first song I ever learned." So Snow Bear opened his heart to the music and gradually began to sing along. His gravelly voice was a perfect match for Ooga's higher warbles and tweets. Before long, the two friends were harmonizing and they began to create songs together. All of the creatures of the Arctic soon gathered to hear the music. Snow Bear's mother stomped her feet and swayed in pleasure, and out on the ice floes, everyone stomped, spun, flopped, tapped, swished, flipped, flapped, dipped, swayed, jumped, kicked, darted, pattered, pittered, or pounced to the music. Snow Bear grinned his biggest bear grin. "We are the music makers. "We are the music makers," he said in awe. And they all danced until dawn, which is a long, long time in the land where the sky touches the sea. Is that a good story? Good. All right, thank you. Can you smile for the camera? And now please stand as you're able and join in singing hymn number 346.
This morning's reading was written by Peggy Sanger Parsons. Here are some things I have found to be true about giving. It does not matter how much you have or how much you give. If you have 10 dimes, you can part with one. It is good for you to part with one. It is especially important to give when you don't feel like it, when it seems risky. It changes you, and you change your world. There is no magic here except this. When you give away some of your stuff, you are freed from the slavery to that stuff. You place your bet on the kindness of the universe. You trust, and that changes you and frees you from the terrible lie that says there is not enough to go around.
Thanks, Jane. Sometimes it's hard to come up with a sermon topic several weeks before you're going to address a topic from the pulpit. So my topic today, it takes a village. It does. It takes a village, and I think it'll make sense as I kind of get into this. It was interesting to do the research for this one because as I looked for essays and sermons about the topic of generosity, inevitably they were stewardship sermons or essays about giving money. And so as I speak with you today, I'm not going to ask for money. We're months away from having to do that. Well, until the offering at least. And I wanted to share a quick little story about my work at St. Joseph's, which has such meaning for me. It's an atmosphere where, as Donna said this morning with her aunt who's suffering, that there is despair and anger. But I found something different a little bit, another nice surprise, Janine, when I was there on Friday, and we were talking about Thanksgiving. And the St. Joe's puts on a great, big, beautiful spread for Thanksgiving. And one guy's even going to have lobster, which he thought was pretty cool. But in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I shared a tradition from my childhood where at the Thanksgiving table, we would go around the table and we would each tell one thing that we were thankful for. And I was really curious about what people would have to say. One woman said, "I'm thankful that we have services like this." There's a retired Catholic priest there. He said, "I'm thankful for everything, which was pretty amazing to me. One woman said, this is a woman who's not really comfortable sharing very much, but she said, I'm grateful for the friends that I've made here." And another woman who doesn't speak very much simply said, "Family." And I was really moved by that, and I was moved by their generosity of spirit, and which kind of ties into what I have to say today. And I want to start with a quote by Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Stevens. "A simple change of perspective can revolutionize the way we move through life. Instead of focusing just on what we want, we can choose to focus on what we want to give. In our personal lives, to live in the spirit of abundance means growing our gifts rather than compensating for a lack we see or that is seen by others. It means building on our strengths rather than trying to eliminate our weaknesses." And I'm going to repeat that one. It means building on our strengths rather than trying to eliminate our weaknesses. It means asking ourselves, what do I want to offer rather than what should I get in return? In our ethical decisions, to live in the spirit of abundance means being responsible for ensuring the rights of others rather than demanding our own rights first and foremost. It means accepting that most of us occupy a place of privilege in our society and in our world, which is not to say that we haven't been discriminated against. Most of us have in some way or other. If we live in the spirit of abundance, though, these experiences lead us to be more compassionate and accepting of others rather than to feelings of anger and hostility. In our community, living in the spirit of abundance works like magic. When each person gives what is in them to give, be it time, money, presence, or some combination of the three, we wind up with more than enough. Growth and expansion happen naturally, organically, as a result of the gifts of time, insight, and care. It's dry in here today. And then I wanted to share quite a few words, actually, from one of our own Mainers, Reverend Naomi King, who is a UU minister at a church in Florida and is also Stephen and Tabitha King's daughter. This is a sermon that she preached during her internship. The question for us today is, what does it mean for us to stand with our faith, for us to stand with this church? It's not a new question or one unique to UUs, but the answer to this question almost always means, and this will sound familiar, going against conventional wisdom, bucking the social trends, and the peer expectations. If we look for proof of the age of this answer, we can find many stories from around the world. But the one book that I come back to from time and again is the book of Ruth in the Bible. The book of Ruth begins with 3 women, Orpah, Ruth, and Naomi, who have lost everything. They've lost their husbands, they've lost their social standing, their homes, their means to make a living, a chance for children. And in their society, this was clearly a sign that they were not blessed. In the society of this story, it was widely believed that the 3 women must have sinned against God because somehow God forgot to buy them Social Security. In those days, that meant a stable family, lots of kids, and the means to make a living. The thing was that in that time and place, Ruth and Orpah essentially belonged to Naomi, who was their mother-in-law. They entered the family and they could not leave. Naomi could have demanded that they do everything in their power to make her comfortable and to care for her, but she didn't. What she did was, in the last powerful act she could do in the tiny space allotted to her, was to say to Orpah and Ruth, "Don't stay with me. That's not fair to you, and it's not right. The only future you have with me is slavery." Naomi knew she had to return to her husband's village, and that along with his property, she would be sold to pay his debts. If Orpah and Ruth went with her, well, they would be sold too. The question for Naomi is, what is a faithful act? To drag these suffering women with her into slavery, or in her last free moment, free them to follow their hearts and their destinies. Set them on the road to deal with the social outcast status they would have, with its attendant shame and suffering, a status considered by many in the time worse than slavery, or invite them into a path of slavery with its sufferings, including the expectation that as women, they would be abused. Orpah and Ruth both have to think about this troubling gift that Naomi makes. They care about her. They're worried for her. They know the choices they're facing. To go home is to choose a path of suffering, and to enter slavery is to choose a path of suffering. They could also have chosen to die. But then they listened to their hearts, their generous hearts, following where their hearts called them. Orpah returned to her family, but Ruth says to Naomi, "Whatever happens to you will happen to me." Or in the King James Version, it says, "Whither thou goest, I will go. Whither thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people will be my people. Thy God will be my God." They each made a free choice. They made a choice for life, and they chose the path that each could best approach. They each knew that they were bucking conventional wisdom, like good UUs, in choosing to continue to live their lives with caring and love and following their hearts. God bless you, Donna. They knew there would be sacrifice and work ahead of them in following their choices, but the choice, even if the suffering was inevitable, was freely made. They were setting out on faith that goodness had to go beyond social convention. Their actions were speaking even more loudly than their words as they chose to live and deal with what life sent their way. What was holy and sacred for them was in making these choices. All 3 women are making generous, difficult, sacrificing choices. After this, we lose Orpah's side of the story and only follow Ruth and Naomi as they head into sure slavery. They return to Naomi's husband's village, where they shelter just inside the city wall, and Ruth goes out to glean in the fields. I don't know how many of you have ever gleaned. It's really not much in fashion these days. When mechanical harvesters take every last bit of grain, well, gleaning is hard work. One is fighting with the birds and the mice for the spare strands of wheat that remain on the ground behind the cutting. Gleaning also happens along the edges of the field, where 1/10 of the land is set aside for the needs of the destitute. This set-aside land is a sign that the owner of the field recognizes his religious obligation to care for the poor and destitute. Boaz, whose field we find Ruth gleaning, has dutifully set aside his 10th of land. In come to let us know already that Boaz is a generous man who puts his money where his prayers are to provide for the needs of the poor. He watches Ruth work hard, and he's taken with the choices she keeps making. Choices he understands as being faithful, and that's 2 words, full of faith, not just adhering to the letter of the law. He's so moved by Ruth's choices that he makes a faithful choice too. He shares how much he wants to help with Ruth. She becomes very excited about the possibility and tells Naomi, who is also excited at what Boaz has to offer. But then, the next day, they announce the estate sale, where Ruth and Naomi are to be sold along with the rest of her husband's estate. It seems like the end of their hope for freedom. But Boaz has another problem. See, he doesn't have the money to buy out Naomi's husband's debt and set Ruth and Naomi free. He has to ask his friend for help. And as we talked about last month, we know that's difficult sometimes. He has to ask a friend for help. Boaz's friend is interested in the land which he can use, but he has no use for the women who are part of the package. So Boaz is given charge of them. Asking for help from his friend, asking for a friend to make a free choice for generosity requires Boaz to stretch his pride and to be so generous as to incur a major social debt. But by doing so, his friend buys out Naomi's husband's debt, and Boaz sets both Naomi and Ruth free. This allows Boaz and Ruth to marry and provide a home for Naomi. Slavery turns into freedom. Death turns toward life on the basis of free choices, generous hearts, and listening where we're called. The choice, even when it meant hard work and sacrifice, was always for freedom. Freedom to listen to the heart's voice, calling where each person must go and act. You've listened to your own heart. Your own heart voice is to come to this place. Whether you were raised UU, or in another tradition, or in no specific tradition, you've made and continue to make a choice to buck conventional wisdom, I love that line, and work this faith to follow your hearts here. Sometimes that free choice is translated as loyalty, but we have a different cultural understandings about what loyalty actually is. Loyalty is a description usually given to Ruth, but when today we talk about Ruth being loyal to Naomi, it's easy to imagine something like a balloon on a string and the string just following the balloon around. We don't imagine the difficult choices and the discernment required. In order for us to really grasp the meaning of loyalty in our faith, this element of discerning must be present. And the Reverend A. Powell Davies once observed, this is a quote from him, "There is and always has been a genuine premium on an individual's remaining with the loyalties he grew up with. If his family were Baptists who live in Texas and vote for a particular political party, he'll find his life easier if he remains a Baptist and a Texan, and he votes for the same political party. Loyalty is supposed to be best evidenced by remaining whatever you started out with. But this is neither sound American principle nor good religion. The founding fathers started out as British subjects and ended up as American citizens. Many of them belonged to the Church of England and yet became Unitarians. They not only declared themselves free, they used their freedom to follow their convictions. What kind of loyalty is this? It was the one loyalty that is alive and authentic. For the truth is that in the end, loyalty is never an attachment to something external so much as it is an allegiance to something inside of yourself. That which commands you outwardly has first possessed you inwardly. There is no surer test than this. Your loyalty will always be to what you secretly love and serve. The challenge for us is to make sure we're providing evidence of what we love and serve more than secretly. Actions speak louder than words. My mother told me that many times when I was growing up. Do we care about conventional wisdom more than justice? Do we care about keeping up with our neighbors more than enlarging those who are truly our neighbors and inviting all people to the party? Where are our hearts leading us, not just in secret, but right here, publicly? This challenge means we're talking about vocation, a calling to something. Here we are, having covenanted, having promised to affirm and promote these principles and draw upon these many traditions. Here we are answering this calling, which sometimes we might struggle to define, answering this calling here to work in this church and in this faith. Parker Palmer, an educator who has greatly influenced UU approaches to religious education, once wrote, "Vocation at its deepest level is not, oh boy, I get to go to this strange place where I have to learn a new way to live and where no one, including me, understands what I'm doing. Vocation at its deepest level is, this is something I can't not do, for reasons I'm unable to explain to anyone else and don't fully understand myself, but are nonetheless compelling." That's what Ruth, Naomi, Boaz, and Orpah were responding to. That's what our pantheon of great UU men and women were responding to. We're called in this church to use our hearts and hands and minds to bring hope to each other, to pick up despair and hug it into tears. I like that line too, hug it into tears. To continue to invite apathy to the party because, oh wow, isn't our dancing good? And isn't our music wonderful? It is, actually. We are first and foremost listening to where our hearts are calling us, checking out that call with our minds and putting our bodies to work. Listening to what calls us to the hope here and now is an ongoing spiritual practice, and it requires courage and discipline. As Randa's sermon said a couple of weeks ago, we have a lot of work to do, and it's not going to be easy. But we've done hard things before, and we can do it again. Listening to what calls us to the hope here and now is an ongoing spiritual practice, and it requires courage and discipline again. It is work. It's work for our children, work for our elders, and for ourselves, because living faithful lives requires courage and stamina. Courage because you're bucking conventional wisdom, there's that line again. Just being here, just by being here, think of that. The more you give yourself to hope and act on that, the more you're working against conventional wisdom, which says, only a few people are worth caring about. Get everything for yourself that you can. If you're not wealthy, it's your fault. If you aren't happy, it's your fault. And you better hope to get to heaven someday. You're here, though, here where we say everyone is worth caring about, even if we have to struggle to see that. We can have enough money and time to give to others, too. There is such a thing as social inequity, and we're working to change that. Happiness requires a great many things, and it begins here in human connection and caring and generosity of spirit. And heaven or not, we need to get to work here and now. Or I should say we need to keep working here and now. I think that might work a little better. What we do here extends beyond these doors throughout everything we do and touch in our lives. We're doing church even when we're not at church. We're doing church the other 6 days of the week. We're doing church everywhere we go, every moment. We're making the choice constantly to stand with this faith and to make hope real. Standing with this faith, we're living out what we say. We're making a choice for freedom. We're saying and dancing and witnessing that no victory is greater than when we work to enlarge the circle of who is included. When we reach out a hand and a shoulder to one another, when we attend to those that are hurting, when we move beyond the us-them to a truly universal we, when we open this circle, we are standing with this faith. Every time we work for this church, make no mistake about this, we are living our faith. Is your faith smaller or greater? Are we here as an enduring, real, growing presence of hope, making difficult decisions and risking and reaching out? Are we making the choices to follow our hearts, to find and expand freedom, to be loyal to our faith? Are we choosing freedom over slavery? Are we asking for help from our friends, finding some way where there is no apparent way? This is work. This is work. Difficult work, as difficult as gleaning, as difficult as the choices made by Ruth, Boaz, Orpah, and Naomi. I know that your heart has called you to be in this place. I know you're making hope real each and every day. It's your hands that are making hope real, that your hands are gleaning hope from the fields of despair. Indeed, it's your hands that are changing the world. It's your hands that are employing choices for this world, not deferring them from some heavenly payment. It's up to you. Separately, we can do a lot. Together, we can make miracles happen. Amen, and blessed be. And I said that I wouldn't try to make a stewardship sermon out of this, and I wouldn't mention money, but this is the time in our service when we have a chance to give back, to give of our treasures. If you're watching online, you can click the PayPal button, or if you'd like to send a check, we're at 60 School Street in Saco, and that's 04072. Please be generous as the ushers wait upon you. What do I do with this? What did I do with my, there it is. Thank you. Please join us in the words of our chalice extinguishing. As we release this flame from its faithful service today, we allow the spark in each of us to burn on, to warm our compassion, to fire our delight, to light our paths, today, tomorrow, and always. And now please join us in our closing hymn in the Teal hymnal, number 1021.
when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Please be seated. Closing words today, I think we don't have, we're running a little bit late and don't really have time for the meditation today. So I'll meditate for 10 minutes next time. Just kidding. The closing words are by Frank Schulman. And I often use this when I close my services at St. Joe's. I love this. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us now and always. Thank you, Anne. Just lovely, just lovely. Our service is now concluded. Please remain seated to enjoy the postlude.